Did you know that 90% of white belts quit before they ever get a blue belt? It's likely because it takes more than 2 years to get one, and even when they do, they feel like they don't deserve it. This is because the standard method of jiu-jitsu doesn't focus on quality, it focuses on quantity. How many sessions you showed up to, how many wins you have, how many submissions you get per session, versus the quality side of things of how well you trained, the depth of which you understand the moves that you're using, and the way you win. Instead of stalling in close guard after taking someone down like an absolute lemon. Nobody wants to win like that. Focusing on quality is the secret to not only faster results, but actually feeling like you've got the belt that you wear. And my students are proof of this. Jack's got his blue belt in 7 months, Warner got his blue belt in 8 months, and Harry and Jack, the brothers, got their blue belt all within under 1 year. Not only did they get a belt 41.6% faster on average, they also developed a unique skill set that enabled them to go to any open mat and feel like a blue belt, to win tournaments and prove that they were the rank that they were at, and feel fantastic about the training they were doing, so that they enjoyed it, got good results, and built legitimate skills. So let's break down exactly what we did, how we structured their training, so that they were focused on quality and not quantity, and they actually felt like the rank that they are and got their belt faster. The first piece of getting your belt faster and focusing on quality is building tangible skills. Most gyms completely fumble this by taking you through a random collection of bullshit moves that are very difficult to piece together. The typical class that you might go to is a close guard sweep, an armbar from mount, and then a knee cut pass. And then you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, how am I going to get from that knee cut pass to close guard so that I can use the sweep that I've just learned? And it just becomes a big fucking mess. The second problem with the traditional way of learning is that some people think that it's about how many submissions you get, thereby ignoring about 98% of the sport, which facilitates submissions. If you have no idea how to escape pins so you're not getting stuck on bottom, consistently wasting hours of your training session underneath big fat purple belts in side control or Kesagatami, for instance. If you have no idea how to generate immediate offense so that those pin escapes don't keep happening, even if you are escaping, you get put back into that same position. If you don't have a way of making sure that offense generates you top position via pinning in all the things that you should be learning in the pin escape series, then you won't be keeping anybody down, they'll get back up to top, and then you restart again. And finally, once you've immobilized people, then you can start submitting people. So you see how there's actually a lot more at play than just working on submissions. Besides, you guys watching this would already know that just trying to throw Hail Mary submissions at people, it's not really a good way to go about things. People know the defenses for most submissions, and you're going to get mixed results at best. Having a system like this to organize your moves actually gives you a fair amount of direction in your training as well. And then one of the biggest problems that I find with white and blue belts, sometimes all the way up to purple belts, is they just don't know what to do next. They know that they should be escaping, but then they have no idea what to move on to. They know that they should be sweeping, but then what comes after sweeping? They know that if they throw up an armbar and it gets defended, that they're pretty much left in the dark. The reason why my students got better in this capacity a lot faster than most people do is because they had a direct game plan on what to move to next after they've hit a successful or unsuccessful move. The second biggest thing that we focused on to get these boys the results that we did is focusing on one position, one move from that position for 1 week at a time. The biggest issue with jiu-jitsu when you're studying and trying to learn is drinking from the fire hose. You take on way too much information all at once and you get very distracted because there's buggy choke tutorials over here, and then there's this brand new passing system over here, and then there's a new instructional over here that your friend was talking about, and he's getting good results and he's submitting you, and then by the time you figure all that stuff out, you've learned absolutely nothing because you've been spread thin. There's a really good analogy for this that I like to use, that most people go an inch deep and a mile wide, rather than a mile deep and an inch wide, and that's focus. So if you're having trouble getting results in your training, it's likely because you have a distinct lack of focus. The third piece of the puzzle that we worked with was not just me giving them fish, but actually teaching them how to fish. Now, what does that mean? A long time ago when I was a personal trainer, I used to think that me being the only sole authority on the information that all my clients were getting made me feel important and special. But what I was really doing is alienating my clients because I wasn't giving them the tools to help themselves even in my absence. Now, jiu-jitsu coaches do do this as well. They start to think, well, I'm a black belt, I get to answer all the questions, and that makes me feel smart. Well, sometimes it does, but sometimes it also leaves your students high and dry when you're not there, for instance, or when they're trying to solve problems by themselves, which actually gives them a ton of confidence. That's a very important fact we'll get into later. The reason why I start to develop an asking system when a question comes across from one of these guys, I ask them what they think is a possible solution. Now, where I got this from was a guy called Dan Martell, and he's a business expert, and he actually calls it the 1-3-1 method. What's the one problem we're facing? What are the 3 possible solutions you think are the answers? And then what's the one solution you're going to enact to see if that was the solution? Now, I obviously guide this with my expertise and my perspective to give them an understanding of how I think about it. But the best part about this is that it actually comes from the student themselves, which enables them to build their confidence in problem solving. And now that is worth its weight in gold, because they're going to be more likely to look for challenges. They're going to be more ready to go into unfamiliar territory and training, and they're going to build 10 times more skills than they would have if they weren't confident in their ability to solve problems. The final piece of how we got these results so quickly is we reviewed their footage diligently. The biggest benefit of having your footage reviewed from somebody that is of a higher level than you is that you can use their perspective to solve problems a lot faster. When you've got somebody who's been training a lot longer at a lot higher degree, they actually have what's called a 30,000 foot view above where you're at, which means they can see the lay of the land, they can see the territory and the potential pitfalls that you're going to be going into if you didn't have that perspective, which you don't because you're a white belt or a blue belt. We don't expect you to have that perspective yet, but you can lend ours to be able to stop making the same mistakes so frequently. I remember when I first started, we talked about this in a prior video, I only wanted to focus on hand post singles and DAS chokes. That was my 2 big bread and butter focuses. If I had me coaching myself back then from where I am now, I would have immediately nipped that in the butt to ensure that I got genuine progress instead of just putting all my energy and all my eggs in one basket. I would have told myself to stop just funneling chains of attack down that and actually develop a system of takedowns. Work on your hand fighting so you can set up those takedowns. When you get to bottom position, don't just button mash DASs like everybody does when they have big long arms like I do. And that would have saved me hours of training time and failed competition time when my best move didn't work. This enables us to plug holes of problems that are very easily solved and shed light on things that the student doesn't even know they're doing because they're unaware of it or they just don't have that perspective. It's the exact same thing as when you give somebody advice that you should be taking, but you're completely unaware of it. And it looks so obvious to you from a third person perspective looking at their problem, but then if they were to say the same thing to you, you'd be like, nah, I don't need that. That's exactly how it works. So not only do we make way less mistakes, we make them less often for shorter periods of time, and we build massive amounts of competence as well, because I don't just roast them for what they did wrong, I also congratulate them for the things that they did right and confirm that they're moving in the right directions. And like I said, if I had that for me, I would have saved so much time. So if you apply the same methods of what I just talked about to your training, you're bound to experience accelerated progress and actually feel like you've earned your rank. Instead of staying stuck, stagnant, and plateaued, if you can focus on a system for learning all of your moves, focus on those things without getting distracted, actually get good coaching where you're asked what you think the problem is. And this doesn't have to be a coach and student relationship either. You guys can use each other to figure this stuff out. Like the guys do in my community where they're bouncing ideas off blue belt to blue belt, purple belt to blue belt. Obviously, you're not always going to get the best answers, but maybe you have something that's closer to your experience. Like sometimes when my students ask me a question at white belt, it's been so far along, it's been so far away since I experienced that problem that I don't really know it all that well. I've got a good idea of how to solve it. Maybe the frustration isn't as big for me because it was so long ago that I experienced that. Whereas if I can get one of my blue belts to coach the white belt on what they just went through maybe 3 weeks ago, it comes from a better place and it gives it a little bit more validity, which is a great thing about having a community. If you are interested in accelerated results and you don't know what your next step is, click the link below and you can find out how to work with me. If you can't or you don't want to, I've got emails down below as well that'll still help you along your journey. And if you don't want to do any of that, just watch this next video because YouTube is a genius and they know exactly what you want to watch next. Mwah.